Welcome to the Cheating Confession Reddit channel. Today, I'm going to share with you a real-life cheating story. It will give you a better understanding of the issue of infidelity today and help you be more cautious when it comes to a cheating wife. Let's dive into this story together.
During my routine morning commute to work, my thoughts circled back to a recurring topic Molly had brought up again during dinner the previous evening. It wasn't the first time this subject had surfaced, but lately, it seemed to crop up more frequently. I found myself wondering why this particular issue held such weight for her. She had asked, yet again, how many women I had been involved with before we became exclusive. She also wanted to know if they ever crossed my mind, or, worse, if I thought about them during our intimate moments. Naturally, the only plausible answer was an unequivocal no. Molly and I had been married for 5 years. Though our marriage wasn't without its flaws, I considered it solid where it counted: trust, respect, love, and passion. In many ways, we were living a fulfilling life. Both of us had stable, enjoyable careers, a strong relationship, a beautiful home in a great neighborhood, and the means to enjoy life's pleasures: travel, fine dining, and entertainment. My name is William Harrison, Billy to friends, and my wife Molly had always been the love of my life. Standing 5'11", with blonde hair and blue eyes, I traced my roots to Nordic and Irish ancestry, though the fiery temper of my heritage had long since been tempered by lessons from my youth. Words, I learned, carried far more weight than fists ever could. I had managed to stay fit, thanks to a youth spent in sports like soccer, hockey, and weightlifting, which I continued to enjoy through jogging, recreational soccer, and the occasional pond hockey game. Molly, on the other hand, was a natural beauty with luminous eyes, flawless skin, and a smile that could light up any room. Her charm and warmth drew people to her effortlessly. While her openness sometimes bordered on flirtation, she was always careful to maintain boundaries. To me, Molly was as close to perfect as a partner could be. That said, her stubborn streak occasionally led to heated discussions. Once she made up her mind, it was nearly impossible to sway her without hard evidence or indisputable facts. Still, these disagreements rarely escalated into serious fights. We had tied the knot shortly after college, following 2 years of exclusive dating. Molly had only a few relationships before me, while my history was more varied. During my late high school and early college years, I lived a carefree lifestyle and had a string of relationships, including a formative one with an older, divorced woman. Molly knew about my past and had even expressed envy over my experiences, feeling she had missed out on similar opportunities. I worked as a mechanical engineer at Abbott Labs, specializing in designing and testing components for medical devices. In my spare time, I have been working on a Winnebago van restoration, a project that has become a personal passion of mine. Molly, a CPA at a renowned accounting firm, enjoyed a well-paying job with occasional travel to mentor younger colleagues on audits. Recently, her work trips included a junior associate named Andrew, a fresh graduate working toward his CPA license. She had mentioned him briefly after their first trip, but hadn't brought him up since. Lately, Molly's behavior had shifted. She seemed quieter and less open than usual. Occasionally, she came home late, brimming with an unusual intensity, pulling me to the bedroom with a fervor I couldn't quite understand. The last such encounter left me questioning the source of her sudden passion. Afterward, as I prepared dinner and she went to shower, I resolved to bring it up. When she sat down at the table, I started cautiously. "Molly, we need to talk," I said, unsure how to proceed. "Go ahead, Billy," she replied, her warm tone inviting. "You know you can tell me anything. I also have something to share, but why don't you start?" Her response reassured me, though it also set off a faint alarm. "That sounds ominous," I half joked. "How many times have we heard about couples unraveling after a we need to talk conversation?" She laughed. "Don't be silly, Billy. This isn't bad. In fact, it could be good for me, and for us." I hesitated before continuing. "Molly, you've been acting differently lately. Less open, less like yourself." "Did you forget the incredible lovemaking we just had?" she countered with a grin. "This isn't about that," I clarified. "Though now that you mention it, what's been fueling this sudden intensity?" For a moment, guilt flickered across her face, If my passion bothers you, maybe you're the problem, not me. Her defensive tone didn't sit right. Molly, I said softly, your reaction says more than you realize. Can you tell me what's going on? Is there something I should be worried about? Her posture softened and she sighed. Billy, I'm sorry, that came out wrong. You deserve the truth. I love you and treasure the life we've built. What we have means everything to me, and I don't want you to doubt that. My concern deepened. Molly, is there someone else? Have you been unfaithful? Her eyes widened, her shock unmistakable. How could you even think that? I would never betray you, Billy. You mean too much to me. Then what is it? I asked, urging her to open up. Just tell me. Whatever it is, we'll figure it out together. Taking a deep breath, Molly nodded. Okay, Billy. I'll tell you everything. Just promise to hear me out before reacting. Once again, I find myself compelled to remind you that my heart belongs to you and you alone. My hopes and dreams are tied to building a future with you, to raising children together, growing old side by side, and sharing every chapter of our lives. What I'm about to say may be hard to hear, but I ask you to listen completely. Do you recall Andrew, my co-worker who has accompanied me on a few work trips? Beyond those trips, we've also shared lunch, gone to happy hours, and even had dinner together recently. Wait, Molly, you've always told me you weren't cheating or involved with anyone else. Are you saying that's not true? No, that's not what I'm saying, she answered. This isn't an affair, and I haven't betrayed you. But you promised to hear me out. She paused, visibly gathering her thoughts. Maybe I crossed a line by spending time with him and not telling you about it. I don't have feelings for him, she continued, her voice firm but tinged with emotion. But we've been flirting. At first it seemed harmless, maybe even exciting in a way. But then things changed when he confessed that he wanted to sleep with me. He's younger than I am by 7 years, and he's incredibly fit and attractive. I found myself drawn to him, infatuated even, and I'm struggling to shake these feelings. I shot to my feet, my emotions surging. Are you telling me you're leaving me for him? That you're in love with him? Have you already been with him and now you're just trying to soften the blow? Billy, no, she said firmly. I haven't done anything with him and I'm not in love with him. This is hard for me to explain, but I need you to listen. I only love you, she said, her voice trembling. Andrew is just an attractive co-worker, nothing more. I could never love him, but I can't ignore how knowing he wants me has made me feel. It's stirred something in me, something I've been suppressing. I've started questioning how little I experienced before meeting you. You've had more opportunities to explore life and relationships, but I've always felt like I missed out. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. She went on, When we flirted at work earlier, it made me feel alive. That's partly why I was so passionate when I came home tonight. But don't misunderstand me. Making love to you means the world to me. It's just that I'm struggling with these feelings. What are you saying, Molly? I asked, my voice cold and sharp. I've decided I need to act on this just once, she admitted, her eyes pleading for understanding. Before we settle down, have kids, and build our life together, I feel like I need this one experience. I'm asking for your permission because I respect you, and I'm being honest because I care about you. But I'll be truthful too. My mind is made up. Her words felt like a knife twisting in my chest. You can't be serious, I said, my voice low but heavy with pain. You've already betrayed me. You've shared things with him, your time, your thoughts, even your affection. That's emotional cheating. Are you sure nothing physical has happened? Billy, stop it. I haven't slept with him or anyone else, she said desperately. But yes, I've kissed him a few times after happy hours. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You've kissed him? You've crossed a line, Molly. This isn't just about flirting anymore. You've broken my trust. How can I believe you love me when you've done this? She looked at me with tears in her eyes. Billy, I love you more than anything. That's why I'm telling you the truth. I'm asking for your trust because this isn't about us. It's about me. It's something I need to do for myself. It's meaningless, but it's been eating away at me. Meaningless? I snapped. This may mean nothing to you, but it's everything to me. You don't understand how deeply you've hurt me." "Billy, please," she pleaded. "This won't change how much I love you. It's not about replacing you. It's about letting go of this feeling so I can focus on us." "Fine," I said bitterly. "Maybe I'll find my own meaningless encounter and see how you like it." Grabbing my keys, I headed for the door. "Billy, please don't do this," she cried. "Come back. This isn't as terrible as you're making it out to be. I promise it will make me a better partner for us in the future." I turned back, my voice like ice. "If you go through with this, we're done. Do you understand me?" Ignoring her desperate protests, I walked out, my heart pounding with anger and betrayal. Update 1: I spent the night at a nearby Hilton, unable to bear returning home. The hotel bar became my refuge, though I knew drowning my pain in alcohol wouldn't solve anything. I ignored Molly's repeated calls and voicemails, too hurt and furious to face her. How could she justify this? How could she claim to love me while insisting on breaking the promises we'd built our relationship on? Molly's stubbornness had always been a defining trait, both infuriating and endearing. But now, it felt like it was driving a wedge between us that might never be removed. Could I make her see the enormity of her mistake? Or had she already gone too far to turn back? Even if I managed to convince her not to go through with it this time, how long could I truly expect her to hold back? What would stop her from eventually carrying out her plan in secret, hiding it from me entirely? Such a betrayal would destroy whatever fragile trust and respect still remained in our marriage, but the alternative felt no better. If I gave her my blessing, I knew I'd never see her in the same light again. Worse, there was no guarantee this would end with just one man. What if down the road she claimed she needed to explore more? Or perhaps one day she'd resent me for allowing this, blaming me for not safeguarding the integrity of our relationship. No matter how I looked at it, every option led to a dead end. I couldn't shake the sense that our marriage was already teetering on the edge of collapse. In the end, the only course I saw was to reason with her. I decided to urge her to join me in counseling, hoping we could uncover the deeper reasons behind her need to be with someone else. On Wednesday, I called in sick to work. Once I was sure Molly had left for her job, I returned to the house and threw myself into tasks that had long needed attention. I focused on the RV, pouring my frustration into practical work. I installed and wired the solar panel, finished the electrical connections, replaced the toilet cassette, and filled the water tanks. By the time I was done, I realized I could wrap up the cabinetry the next day, completing the RV entirely. Keeping busy was the only way I could dull the ache in my chest. With a few hours to spare before Molly's return, I sat down to research my options online. I looked into divorce procedures, financial strategies, and marriage counselors, trying to form a plan for whichever path I might need to take. Afterward, I walked through the house, mentally cataloging which belongings mattered most to me. Once I'd finished, I headed to the bank. There, I made significant moves, canceling our shared credit card, opening an account in my name only, and splitting our joint checking account into 2 separate ones. I prepaid 2 months of the mortgage, divided the remaining funds, and moved my half into my personal savings. Exhausted but slightly more prepared, I stopped at a nearby pub for a beer and a burger, mentally bracing myself for the conversation awaiting me at home. Molly walked through the door at 6 p.m., her face a mix of relief and apprehension when she saw me. "Billy, you can't just leave without a word. I was worried sick," she said. "I know this is hard for you, but I love you. We're solid. You and me, we're forever." I shook my head, struggling to reconcile her words with her actions. "Molly, a week ago, I would have believed every word you just said. But now? You're asking me to accept something that goes against everything I thought we stood for. How can you claim to love me and still ask this of me?" Her tone hardened. "Billy, stop being so dramatic. It's not cheating if you agree to it. It's just one time and it doesn't change how I feel about you." I couldn't contain my frustration. "You really don't understand, do you? I'm looking at the woman I've loved for years, but you feel like a stranger. You say you love me, yet you're planning to spend a weekend with another man. Do you honestly think we can go back to how things were after that?" Her gaze didn't waver. "It's different for me, Billy. You had your wild past, your experiences. I never got that. And no, I couldn't forgive you if the roles were reversed. But this isn't the same. How is it not the same? I asked, my voice rising. Why should I accept something you admit you wouldn't forgive? Her eyes filled with tears, but her resolve remained. Billy, I can't lose you. You're my everything. Then why are you willing to risk it all? I demanded. Have you already set this up with him? Her hesitation was answer enough. Yes, she finally admitted. He's picking me up Saturday morning and I'll be back Sunday night. By Monday, I'll be the best wife you could ever want. Her words turned my stomach. You already were, Molly. But if you go through with this, you never will be again. My words struck her like a blow. She retreated to the kitchen, pleading, Billy, please, don't let this ruin us. I want you to be the father of my children. You're my everything. I stared at her, feeling an unbridgeable gap between us. If that were true, you wouldn't even consider this. If you go through with it, we're done. Think long and hard about what you're throwing away. She reached for me, but I walked out the door. I booked a room at the Hilton for the next 2 nights and called my boss, explaining I had a family emergency and needed time off. On Thursday, while Molly was at work, I returned to the house quietly. I packed only what she wouldn't immediately notice was gone, loading my belongings into the RV. I decluttered as I went, donating old clothes and unused equipment, some of which I dropped off at my friend Tom's place. Over a beer, I told him everything. Tom stared at me incredulous. Billy, there's no way Molly would do this to you. I've never seen anyone more in love than she is with you. But love, I realized bitterly, didn't seem to mean the same thing to Molly as it still did to me. Are you sure this is the path you want to take? Maybe there's something more going on with her than it seems, Duck asked, his voice tinged with concern. I don't know what I want, I admitted, frustration spilling over in my words. I feel completely adrift, Duck. I can't tell which way is up anymore, what's right or wrong. My entire life has unraveled in just a single week. Molly seems like a stranger now. She's gone completely off the deep end, I added after a moment's pause. Have you considered forgiving her? Maybe there's still a chance for you two to work this out with counseling or something, Duck suggested. I've already brought that up. I told her counseling was an option, but only if she stopped seeing him. If she doesn't, I don't see how we can fix this. I've done everything I can to convince her, but she won't listen. Friday is my last shot. I'll try to reason with her, make her see what this is doing to us. If she still doesn't understand, I'm out of options. Good luck, man. Let me know if there's anything I can do to support you, Duck said earnestly. It's hard watching this happen to you guys. You've always been the couple everyone looked up to. I'm doing everything I can, Duck. But if it all falls apart... I hesitated. Well, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Thanks for being here for me. Always, he said firmly. If you need anything, just say the word. I'll keep that in mind, I replied, my tone flat. Take care of yourself, buddy. And hey, I'm switching to a new phone and number soon. I'll send you the details when it's set up so we can keep in touch. Hang in there, all right? Later, Duck. After our call, I drove to the Verizon store, got a new phone, and changed my number. I transferred the account solely into Molly's name. From there, I went home. I tackled some unfinished cabinetry, updated my license tags and insurance, and began preparing for what felt inevitable. Back at the house, I erased all my personal emails and documents from our shared computer. It was a strange act of finality, removing traces of my life there. I drafted an email addressed to our family, friends, and colleagues. It explained Molly's choices and my decision. She had chosen to pursue an affair despite knowing it would end our marriage. I prayed I wouldn't have to send it, but if things crumbled, I wanted the truth to be known. On Friday morning, I met with a divorce lawyer. He laid out the probable outcome, a 50/50th division of our assets. Our similar incomes and lack of children made the division straightforward, except for my 401k. Saving over $200,000, I faced the possibility of losing half. Molly's defined pension added another layer of complexity. To protect my savings, I decided to withdraw the funds and accept the tax penalties. Still, I resolved to wait until the weekend ended, holding on to a faint hope that Molly might reconsider. By Friday evening, I had done everything I could. I waited at home for Molly to return, determined to give her one final chance. When she walked in, she was unusually upbeat. "Billy, you're home," she said brightly, stepping into the kitchen where I was cooking dinner. "I hate it when you're not here. Promise me you won't disappear like that anymore. I need you around." "I love you, Molly," I said softly. "Go take a shower and relax. Bring this gin and tonic with you, and when you're back, dinner will be ready. Tonight, we're celebrating everything we've been." "Billy, don't talk like that. You're scaring me." "Let's save the heavy talk for later, okay? Just go unwind," I urged. She sighed, but eventually went upstairs. When she came back down, she looked radiant, her face glowing. "You're beautiful, Molly," I said. "I wanted you to see what's ahead," she said, smiling. "I got some new outfits, for us." Her smile faltered slightly as I forced myself to remain guarded. We ate quickly, and after the meal I carried her upstairs. I poured every ounce of love I had left into that night, trying to cling to the fragments of what we'd been. She fell asleep in my arms, seemingly content, but I knew the storm wasn't over. The next morning, Molly was up early, busy with her plans. She came downstairs wearing a robe, the smell of bacon and coffee filling the air. "Last night was incredible, Billy," she said, wrapping her arms around me. "This is what I want for us, what I see in our future." I didn't respond, focusing on the eggs sizzling in the pan. "Do you want breakfast?" I asked. "No thanks," she replied lightly. "Andrew's picking me up at 11 for brunch." "Molly," I said, my voice breaking, "if last night meant anything, if you still care about us, don't do this." "Billy, stop," she snapped, irritation creeping into her tone. "This is just one part of my life. It doesn't change how I feel about you." Her words hit like a physical blow. "I'll be here when you're ready to say goodbye," I said coldly. "Don't forget, Billy," she said, her voice softening. "You and I are forever. We'll come out of this stronger." I couldn't hold back my anger anymore. "Forever? How can you even believe that, Molly?" She turned crimson at my words, her eyes shimmering as tears began to form. Without uttering a single syllable, she spun around and hurried off to the bathroom. I could hear the shower running and later the soft sound of her applying makeup. When she finally reappeared, weekend bag in hand, it was already 10:30, time slipping through my fingers too quickly. My chest tightened with a mixture of anger and sorrow as I saw her dressed, preparing to meet someone else. "Billy, are you okay?" she asked, her tone almost too casual. "Molly, I wanted last night to be something special for both of us," I said, struggling to hold back the flood of emotions surging inside me. "It was supposed to be a celebration of what we've built together, a moment to create a memory we could treasure forever." She hesitated, her voice quivering when she replied, "Billy, don't say it was our last night together. Of course, we'll be together again. We'll be stronger." I shook my head, my frustration evident in my voice. "Molly, that was our last chance to break free from this nightmare you've dragged us into." "Billy, stop," she responded, her voice firm but defensive. "This is just one thing. One moment I need for myself. I deserve it. You've had your history with other women, memories to hold on to. But I've had nothing. This is about something I've kept buried for too long." Her words stung, but I pushed forward. "Don't you realize? This changes everything." Before she could answer, the sound of a car pulling into the driveway broke the heavy silence. A horn honked twice. Molly looked toward the door and said, "Should I let Andrew in? Maybe if you meet him, you'll see he's just a young guy I'm attracted to. Nothing more. He's not a threat to the love I have for you." Her suggestion struck a nerve. I glared at her, my voice shaky with anger as I snapped, "Don't you dare let him into this house. If you do, I swear I'll lose control, on him, and maybe even on you." She recoiled, visibly shaken by the intensity of my outburst. It was a side of me she'd never seen before. Wordlessly, she grabbed her bag and moved toward the door. Her departure felt inevitable, but the weight of it hung heavy, like a storm cloud gathering. Later, I sat in a kitchen chair, deep in thought. I'd tried everything to prevent this moment, to salvage what little was left of our marriage. But Molly seemed to exist in a world of her own making, convincing herself that this weekend, This act of betrayal was somehow necessary. After half an hour of brooding, I made up my mind. I began packing my things and moved them into the RV. While gathering my belongings, I found her wedding rings carelessly left in a small bowl on her dresser. I pocketed them, a bitter symbol of all she had discarded. 2 hours later, I had packed everything that mattered to me. My anger simmered beneath the surface as I walked through the house, memories flashing like unwelcome ghosts. In the living room, my eyes landed on our wedding album. It was filled with photos from a day that had once promised forever. I couldn't bear to look at it any longer. I grabbed a box cutter from the garage, returned, and methodically slashed an X through every page. I then threw the album into the fireplace, watching the flames consume the evidence of a love that no longer existed. At the desk, I wrote my final letter to Molly. Molly, this is it. Goodbye. I can't bring myself to face you after what you've done to me and to our marriage. Finding your wedding rings abandoned on your dresser told me everything. You left them behind because wearing them would have forced you to face the reality of what you've done. You wanted a free pass, to live without guilt, as if this weekend could exist without consequence. I don't understand what you were thinking. Did you honestly believe you could betray me, break our vows, and then come back as if nothing had changed? You've shattered my heart, Molly. The love I had for you, so deep and unwavering, you ripped it out and trampled on it. You didn't just cheat this weekend. You cheated when you first entertained the idea of another man, when you flirted with him at lunch and during happy hours. You sealed that betrayal with every stolen kiss. And now, you've delivered the final blow by sleeping with him, as if that's something I could ever forgive. You've called me immature, dramatic. You dismissed my pleas, my warnings, even my suggestion to go to counseling. I told you last night was our last chance to find our way back to each other, but you didn't listen. You assumed I'd always wait for you, that I'd stay no matter what. How could you think so little of me, of us? This isn't just about the act itself. It's about trust, respect, and love, all of which you've destroyed. Even if I wanted to, I could never look at you the same way again. I could never touch you without wondering where your mind wanders, if you'd rather be with him or someone else. The trust we built is gone, and with it, any hope of rebuilding what we had. I've divided our assets fairly. Enclosed, you'll find a check for your share of our joint accounts. I've paid the mortgage for the next 2 months and signed a quit-claim deed, transferring the house into your name. Our joint phone plan, insurance, and credit accounts are canceled. You'll need to set up your own. I'm walking away, Molly, because there's nothing left for me here. Just as you walked away from us, I'm walking away from you. This is the end. Billy, do what you like with the house. Sell it, live in it, or let it rot. It no longer matters to me. It's no longer my home, and I'll never set foot in it again. I've sold my car, packed up what's left of my life, and driven off in the RV. At some point along the way, I'll pawn the wedding rings for gas money. At least they'll finally have some practical use before disappearing for good. But before I go, there are some things you should know. Things I did in the wake of your betrayal, fueled by pain and anger at the ruins of what we once had. You'll notice the wedding album is gone. It's been shredded to pieces with a box cutter. What's left of it is in the fireplace, waiting to be burned. Consider it a symbolic cremation of our marriage's remains. I also sent an email to everyone we know, friends, family, co-workers, laying out exactly what happened. They now know about your decision to cheat and my choice to leave. You've got a small window to craft your own version of the story, but perhaps this is the moment to finally take responsibility for what you've done and start over. Here's the silver lining for you. You're free. Free to chase anyone you want without secrets or guilt holding you back. Have all the affairs and escapades you like. Just one favor. Try not to wreck any more marriages while you're at it. You've already caused enough damage. Maybe now you'll figure out what you were really searching for when you threw away everything we built like yesterday's garbage. Divorce me, sell the house, move. It's all in your hands now. I don't care anymore. As for me, I'll consider a divorce if I meet someone who loves me the way I deserve. Until then, I'm leaving this wreckage behind. I quit my job, drained my savings, and made no plans beyond driving away and never seeing you again. My only direction was to take a left out of the driveway, Beyond that, I'll create a new life for myself, leaving every trace of you in the rearview mirror. Goodbye, Billy. Before leaving, I set up the email I mentioned. It'll hit everyone's inboxes Monday, long after I'm gone. Without a backward glance, I walked out the door, climbed into the RV, and began my journey into the unknown. I found myself following the Mississippi River south, from Minneapolis all the way to New Orleans. When I reach the river's end, I'll decide whether to turn left or right. The long hours of driving gave me too much time to think about Molly and whether I'd made the right call. For now, I've resolved not to decide anything about her. The idea of staying friends, or worse, staying married, is unthinkable. If by some miracle my anger fades and I find I want to be with her more than I want to be without her, I might consider reopening the lines of communication. But I'm not holding my breath. I'd give it less than a 1 in 4 chance, and the road back would be brutal. Molly would have to confront the shame and pain of explaining her actions to everyone she knows, none of whom would ever truly understand or side with her. Even Molly can't fully explain why she did what she did. She has to come to terms with how selfish and short-sighted her choices were, how she convinced herself her betrayal wouldn't hurt anyone. Now she sees the full scale of the destruction she's caused, to her marriage, her love, and herself. The respect of those around her is gone, replaced by disappointment and distance. Her friends and family have started pulling away, leaving her to face the consequences of her actions in solitude. Molly began calling Tom, my best friend, every week. She begged him for news, where I was, how I was doing, or even just a message. She pleaded with him to tell me she loved me, that she finally understood her mistakes, and that she'd do anything for another chance. "Tell him I love him," she said. "Tell him I miss him, and that I'm committed to our vows. I'll never see anyone else while we're still married." But no message ever came back to me. No calls, no letters. She withdrew from her social circles, throwing herself into solitary work and prayer, clinging to the hope that I might one day return. She vowed to remain faithful, determined to repair what she'd destroyed. About a month after I left, Andrew answered his door to a masked figure. Without warning, the man struck him twice with a baton and delivered a brutal kick to the groin. As Andrew writhed on the ground, the attacker leaned down and hissed a warning. "Stay away from married women." With that, the man disappeared into the night. Molly's obsession with chasing fleeting desires blinded her to all the warnings and ultimatums I'd given her. She had torn apart her own life in a matter of weeks and now realized she'd pay the price for her betrayal every single day. As time went on, both of us reflected on everything that had happened. And yet, neither of us could answer the question that haunted us. How did she ever believe this would be okay? My friend, and this is the end of the story. If you liked this story, then put your royal like and subscribe to the channel. May the force be with you.